Hey friends, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about the energies for Leo season. So I've noticed that a lot of the astrologers are coming out and forecasting August, and so I was like, let me just jump on here. I want to keep things simple, and I think that, and I want to speak about Leo season as a season, not necessarily just August, because this is going to be based on the sun and the moon, and the sun is in Leo, and our dark moon in Leo was opposite, exactly opposite Pluto and Aquarius, and then the full moon that's going to be happening will be in Aquarius. So to me, the themes for Leo season is Leo and Aquarius. Okay, Pluto and Aquarius, the sun in Leo. So, and what this means for us as people. So, Pluto is retrograde 2 degrees in Aquarius. Pluto represents or rules Scorpio. Pluto is death. Pluto is transformation. Um, Pluto is transmutation. And so it's in Aquarius, it's going to be there for 18 years. And it's just kind of been churning back and forth between the zero. And I think the furthest it got was 3 degrees before it started retrograding back. So like 0 and 3 degrees. So at these very early degrees of Aquarius, Aquarius rules the individual, Aquarius rules the rebellion, Aquarius um, represents air signs. Air signs usually are logical. It's how we think. And so Pluto is in there really going over like these early degrees of Aquarius. Like what do we think about? How do we think? Um, what are our patterns of thinking? And it's going in there, it's transmuting, it's transforming this. Um, it is bringing in that water energy into Aquarius, that water energy of Scorpio, which is creation, which is love, right? Which is birthing new things, right? That transformation, that transmutation. It's bringing in all this water, and this is how I see it into Aquarius. And then we have the sun, who is in Leo. The sun is exalted in Leo. The sun rules Leo. Leo is fixed fire. Leo is the inspiration. Leo to me is that solar plexus, right? How we see ourselves. Courage, fire signs are courage. Leo is courage, of course. Leo is strength, the number 8 card in the tarot. And then it is also important to remember that in the major arcana, Aquarius is represented by the star card, and the star card has that woman pouring the vessel, right? And she is on land and in water, right? So again, the idea of Pluto being in Aquarius, right? Who is known as the water bearer, which confuses people because she is in some of her iconography holding the vessel and with the waves coming out, which in reality, or which in reality represents energy because Aquarius represents energy. But it is that idea that you have to have it encapsulated, right? You have to have a space. I also think it comes from, Saturn being its original ruler, and Saturn rules boundaries, rules spaces. So, um, but I understand the confusion because it says water in the name. So most people think Aquarius is a water sign. So it is home to Pluto right now for the next 18 years. So lower Aquarius can be, aloofness, which most signs when they're in their lower vibe, I was about to say not rooted in reality, in a deep sense, right? But that can happen with most signs. But this aloofness, too far out there, too far gone, too, I don't say like too individual, um, but not able to relate at all, right, with anyone. in the planet, if you will. And that is the extreme, right? Feeling lonely, feeling like the lone wolf, no one understands them. That's the extreme, and that's the extreme lower of Aquarius. And there are times in everyone's life where we feel a little alone, um, or we feel like no one's understanding me. But when it's in Aquarius, it's extreme. I would almost, well, I would almost say like Unabomber extreme. Okay. I don't know if he was an Aquarius or not, but that idea of isolation and just not wanting to, just not getting it right. And so then the extreme lower of Leo is that ego, right? Being the best, their shit doesn't stink. Everyone needs to listen to them. Um, you know, they're the most creative. If it's not for them, they're the ones that light the world, all these things. So the lower, um, and it almost gets comical, right? When you see that lower ego of Leo when it comes out, and it's just a joke, right? I'm trying to think. Like, Weird Al Yankovic does a good job of playing on lower egos in the sense that he exaggerates what people a lot of times think makes them special, right? So, in a good-hearted way. So, um, we're hitting on all the tops, right? Unabombers and Weird Al Yankovic. So this is where we're at. And so with this month of Leo season, we're really going to be going, I mean, between those two extremes, okay? But it's for the self. We're coming into a way of ego death with the self. We're coming into a way of how we think about things, about the self. Pluto and that Aquarius is going to be transmuting and transforming the way that we've always thought about things. Um, that dark moon in Leo, where it was opposite, that Pluto was planting those seeds of um, transformation, transmutation, and death, right? And literally that death because of Pluto, right? I don't think all dark moons represent a death, but with this one, definitely. And so those were the seeds that were planted, and it's going to be coming in, throughout the month. And it's important to remember that this is going to be coming in a personal way, um, because these are personal planets, but also the idea of the way that I read astrology and um, tarot, it is that it's for the self. A lot of times people want to come in and they want to know about who does so and so like, or what does so and so think, Can we do those? Sure. But it's also, I think, more important that we're here to learn about ourselves and how we navigate things and start to wake up, right? And pay attention to what is being told to us and what's being absorbed and because of that, how we internalize it and then put it back out in the world. And this Leo season is really going to be highlighting that because it is about this idea of learning how to live our destiny. And for those things to happen, things need to end in order for things to begin. And these fixed signs, we just had, Uranus move into Gemini. Uranus was in Taurus. Taurus is the earth, right? And it was being churned up for 8 years with Uranus in there. Uranus can hold Taurus. Very well. And now Uranus has moved into Gemini, and Gemini is mutable. So it's going to have more space. And, Pluto and Aquarius is a good match um, because they're both fixed. Pluto and Capricorn, that was the endless pursuit of always starting something, always starting, always starting. And so so and this is important. Like I'm not saying like when Uranus in Gemini, I'm not saying that if Aquarius and a Gemini meet someone, Aquarius is better or tougher. It's not that. This is talking about energy in planets. The reality of it is if you are a Gemini and you understand how you work with your energy, that's what's important here. But what I am saying is that this Uranus energy in Gemini is going to have more extremes in a sense until we start to get used to it. Okay. And it just moved, it's still at 0 degrees of Gemini, which is a really beautiful place to be, right? It's freshly in there. It's starting to get the lay of the land. Um, Gemini is in Gemini, if you've been watching me for 4 years or plus, 4 years ago or so, it could be five at this point, when the South Node was in Gemini, and I was talking about this is the way that we're ending duality, in the sense that duality is light and dark, right? And good or bad. And the idea of Gemini is understanding that there is both, right? And it's like yin and yang. The idea, if you don't see, darkness as bad, then what is bad, So here we are with Uranus in Gemini, and it's going to be making us think about duality. If you were only on one path, because if you're only on one path and you start to see signs that say like get in the other lane, are you going to allow yourself to get in the other lane? It's like driving, right? And so Uranus is going to come in there. And remember, Uranus is going to be in there for 7 or 8 years. So we're just kind of getting used to this idea. Uranus rules Aquarius, which is an air sign. Gemini is mutable air. Gemini's ruler Mercury is in Leo right now, who is retrograde. So it just points to this idea, right, of ego death, thinking about things differently, thinking about ourselves differently, understanding ourselves differently. We have Chiron, Neptune, and Saturn all retrograde in Aries, which is fire. Aries is also the self, right? And so we're going back over all these things. And these things might come out of nowhere, right? And it could be something that you get angry about and then you realize, oh my God, I never thought of that. Or holy shit, this is what I really think. This is how I think. Am I okay? Right? And it is about this idea of the spark, right? Uranus is the spark. Uranus is that aha moment. Um, and once you have that aha, good, bad, or indifferent, it changes everything immediately. There's no going back in the form that the energy's been released, the energy's been transmuted, the energy's been recognized, right? It doesn't mean, though, that if you think something or say something and you realize something about yourself, let's just say that on the human level of goodness, you might think like, oh my God, I really think that? I really think that way. Um, and the idea is like maybe you do, and maybe you need to realize this. And once you realize that and you put it out there and it comes to your attention, then you can work with it. Then you can change it. Then you can transmute it, right? Then you can be like, oh, holy hell. Am I really that person? And it's not to sit there and judge yourself. It's to sit there and be objective. Well, if I can have these things, and I always thought I was God's gift, blah, 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 what does that mean? Or or if you thought for your whole life that you don't need to speak up, and then all of a sudden something comes out of your mouth because something triggers you, good, bad, indifferent, and you speak out, and everybody's like, oh, wow, that was really profound. And then you think, maybe I do say profound things. Maybe this is my time to start speaking up. Maybe this is, um, time for me to get that self-esteem, right? Maybe my thoughts aren't that weird, you know? Um, maybe this is where I am now in life, right? So all these things are going to be working together. But it is this idea about ego death, ending old stories, old patterns, old egos, even in order to start living the destiny of the new self, the new ego, the new thought patterns, um, the new revolution, right? The new rebellion. If we all thought this is what the rebellion is, this is what it looks like, and it's not happening and or working, what is it? Where do we go from there, right? This is all happening during Leo season. And there's one other thing I really want to kind of put a pin in, or really the idea of um, Pluto to me, and this idea of like shadow work is fine. I don't mind that term at all, shadow work, or going to the underground, however we speak about this stuff. The energy when we start working with this, or like Pluto, let's just use Pluto as an example, to me is neither good nor bad. Pluto is Pluto, it's Pluto. It holds its energy. The way we interact with it, or the way we talk about it, or the way we see it, um, the way we interpret it, um, is what makes the difference. So Pluto being an Aquarius is just doing its thing, right? It's making us think differently, transmuting old thoughts, all these things. The sun in Leo is doing its thing. They hold the same energy, right? Pluto, I'm just thinking of it being cold and dark because it's way out there in outer space, right? But the idea is that it holds the same energy as the sun, light, you know, beautiful, hot, however you want to see it. Well, I guess that's cold, that's light, and that's hot. But it's the same energy. So they're in there, they're just doing their things, and we're allowing them to go in, clean things out, turn things over, transmute things, kill things, right? And I say this because the idea that if we have this thought and we think it's a good thought or we think it's a bad thought, that's on us. Okay, so it's this idea that just because you think something that would maybe like be lower or egotistical, like, boy, I would love that because then I could really put them in their place. And you're like, oh my God, I want to put people in their place, like, that doesn't mean that you're descending into, it doesn't mean you're descending. It means you're having that thought and that energy. Okay. What you want to do with it is up to you. Um, Sit with it, observe it, transmute it, go in, discuss it. Why am I feeling this way? What does that mean? Does it mean there's some place in my heart that needs to be healed because, um, I feel like putting someone in their place, maybe, yeah. Okay, well, why do I feel that way, right? It's this idea that it comes back to the self. It's this idea of when I think these things, and if you're, if I think these things and I'm wishing harm on others, is it because there's a place in me that feels frightened, that needs to be healed, that needs to feel safe? Bringing it back to the self, um, understanding this about yourself. That's that's what this that's what this ego death is here for. It's to understand the self, to understand you're okay, to understand you are a range of emotions, to understand you can change your mind, to understand you can learn something new, to understand this idea about duality, uh, isn't to shame, put one right, one wrong. I think it's this idea that we need a float. We need a float. Sometimes we're here, sometimes we're there, right? Where are we floating in this vessel? Where are we floating in quote unquote duality? Mercury is retrograde in Leo. What have we been telling ourselves that have been keeping us trapped in maybe a false ego, good, bad, or indifferent? What is it that we're learning this Leo season? Is it going to be intense? It can be. Could be more intense at times than others, sure. Can it be a whole lot of fun? Yeah. It's going to be up to us. It's going to be us checking in on ourselves. How am I today? Where am I today? What am I feeling today? What am I exuding today? What am I absorbing today? All this fixed signs. Leo season is here, um, the sun, the king maker, the queen maker. It's time for us to be sovereign, right, over ourselves. I will say, I will say this one last thing too, when thinking about um, working, going through death, rebirth, all these big themes, good, bad, however you want to put it. And it's okay if you guys think something's good and something's bad, right? That is how we sort of navigate. But what's going to be happening is that we're really going to be questioning, quote unquote, what's good, what's bad. Do I need to even put that on there? Can I just be, do I need to have an opinion on this, right? A lot of times I say that to myself. I don't think I need to have an opinion on this. And what does that mean? How do I go from there? I think a lot. I'm an Aquarius. So, but I do feel a lot now too, because I do think this age of Aquarius is the idea of putting us back to think with our hearts and get out of the mind. So there's that. But I'm going to say this one thing and then I'll end it. I'm going to say two things, then I'm going to end it. So when I was thinking about this, I was like, how can I put this in some sort of context? And what came to me um, was the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I have not seen in 1 trillion years. Okay. But there is that point, and if I'm remembering it correctly, I think I remember it correctly, but the Kate Blanchett was playing, I think, the Fairy Queen, I'm pretty sure, and she's talking about that ring. And she goes into like this ecstatic state, right, where she understands the power and how she can use it. And, she gets bananas. Okay. But then she recollects herself, and I guess she hands the ring over. I can't really remember. I can't remember how it goes, right? But it is that idea that she knows that part of her exists within her, and it's there. And she expresses it, and we're all watching. Oh my gosh, her express the state, right? That's okay. Right? She knows that about herself. She understands though when she sits with herself and she talks to herself, how does she want to present? How does she want to be in the world? How does she love with her heart? She knows these things do exist in the world and she does know they do exist in her. She's okay with it. Um, and I would maybe present that to you guys too, right? Um, Maybe I'll go rewatch that scene if I can find it or something. But it is this idea of knowing that we are complex. We see a lot of things in the world. Um, and it's time for us to really start to understand who we are at this time, at this place, with these new energies. Okay? The other thing I'm going to say is that I got a Santa Morta deck and she's going to be coming in pretty soon. So maybe I'll pull cards this Leo season with her because she's represented by the skeletons. And it's this idea of working with our own heart space, right? And how she can help us move through this ego death. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, so keep an eye for that. All right, friends, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, I hope this helps. Um, Aquarius energy is here for us to be different, right? To celebrate the self, to celebrate community, right? Um, and so with Pluto in there, how we do that is going to be different moving forward. And then with the sun in Leo, we want to be able to embrace ourselves with love. We want to be able to embrace our communities with love. And if that is the energy on the planet that's coming in, there's going to be a lot of things that have to fall away for us to get there. It's got to start with ourselves first. So, um, work with this energy for Leo season. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be challenging. It might be a little shocking at times too. But that's what we're here for, right? We're here for to be these change makers at this time on the planet. Okay, now I'm gonna leave it there. All right, friends. If you got any questions, reach out below, like and subscribe, share with your friends, all those things, and I will see you soon.